Okay, let's cross over to you, Prof. KIVUTHA. When Chris was making his submission, he mentioned about the president being in charge by being fed all the information necessary to make him govern and giving the ability to govern. As a professor of law and as a gentleman who has been in governance, would you state tonight that the president is actually in charge? Did we just lose Professor? I was waiting for a lecture. All right. Sengu, good evening to you. As we try to get KIVUTHA back, that question is actually a professor's question, but I'd like to get your opinion on that. Is the president in charge?
Thanks a lot, Obeds, Nizani, definitely. Of course, the president is in charge of matters in the nation. We might view it differently, but I think in as much as we call him to action, I am sure that he's in charge of the situation. And things might go out of hand often, or we've seen that often probably some things have been demanded for, but as the head of state, I think, and I want to assure you that probably he's in charge of the situation.
So just that I can get the professor's view, and this is with a lot of respect to you, Sengu. Allow me to loop in Prof. And Prof, if you got my previous question, I want to find out, every gentleman or lady that is in this platform today believes that the country is somehow not in the right spot. Chris has highlighted in his presentation that the president is always in charge. As a politician, as a leader, and as a governor in the past, would you authoritatively state tonight that the president is actually in charge of the country?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof, we hear you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry, the other phone I had did not have more charge, therefore I was looking for some other one. First of all, let me say thank you, Mizani, thank you, Obets, and Eli, who is not here. And really, I was listening for a while when I was traveling.
Prof, this is Eli speaking. Don't worry.
Yes. So I was listening as we were traveling, but I was listening anonymously because of any noises in the car. So I have followed a lot of this discussion, and it is extremely enlightening. It is really, when you listen to, people here, it's edifying conversation. And so I really thank you for this big picture, purpose-driven leadership. Even before answering that question, that elephant question, let me just say, like others were doing in terms of the big picture, what really as a lawyer, and especially as a constitutional lawyer, I find very extremely intriguing in terms of recent developments in this country, is you have citizens who are for the constitution and law. The young people are saying, just do the legal thing, do the right thing, give us services, deliver as you promised in your manifesto, follow the constitution, provide services. We want security, provide for the youth and everybody. And then you have the government, which is against the constitution and law. So this is an extremely, it's something that usually doesn't happen, because on the whole, when citizens discover that the government is against the law, they also decide to be against the law. And that's when we get to anarchy. So that's part of my beginning of the big picture of exactly what I think is happening in the country. And then of course, we say that we had the first political liberation. That is when in 1963. But that also was aborted, because the kind of independence, we thought we would have to build on after colonialism, so that we can, be, a country of progress and development and all that, like Singapore, like those people we started with. That political liberation kind of aborted. Even the second liberation of multipartyism, of multipartism. When you look carefully today, you find that these coalitions which are made on tribal basis, they take us towards a one-party state again. And they, although they are not formal, they are not, the parties don't come together so that they become one party, but those coalitions, de facto coalitions, take us back to one-partyism. And so it's another variant of one-party rule. And really, you can't talk of an opposition with teeth, an opposition that is sympathetic to, what the people, feel, want, and so on. Like, one can say in South Africa, you have an example of an opposition, one can say, which is distinct from ANC, and tries to really push the people's agenda, even at the cost of losing some of its votes in elections, like when Malema said that he will not, say South Africa for South Africans, and run away from Pan-Africanism and so on. So again, even as people say they are the opposition, we don't see that. And even when people are in government and they say they're in opposition, so you get lost. And even with due respect to SKM, Kalonzo Musyoka, if Farah, who is a deputy party leader, goes to really say crazy things and is, really working with the government, if you are, not to compromise your opposition status, you should be able to tell him that he'll be suspended, to withdraw him, not to say that there is a meeting which will happen at some future point to deal with him. And one hopes that as a measure of good faith, we will see Farah being stepped down from that position, even if it's in the interim, before a disciplinary committee works on him. And then I think still one talks about the political parties, and this is something that was talked about. We really don't have opposition. We don't have political parties. Political parties which have a clear manifesto, vision, elected officials, offices, membership, periodic elections, where they make accounts for, the monies that they get and spend. So that is another issue. And that is why you will find that this opposition, but these political parties are really owned by the kingpins, and even those the MPs and so on have to pander to them, because if you don't, you not get a nomination. And actually that is one reason why we should be able to ask the leaders of these political parties, if parliament is compromised, why do you allow your members to be compromised? What do you talk to them? What do you discuss with them, so that you can tell them that you cannot just be compromised? You can't just do what you're asked to do by the executive, because the party has a position, and the party, must push for those positions. So how come, the MPs and senators are compromised, but we don't hear a voice from the political parties, telling them that that shouldn't happen. So that's another thing that needs, to be followed and to be discussed. I think from what also Bonnie said, and I agree with him totally. And actually, I hope one day I'll have a conversation with him to share also some of what, my experience was in the counties. But there's also dictatorship in the counties. And that's one thing that is not followed, because just like at the national level, when you decide to exercise what you believe is your right to corruption and wastage, then people will resist. And that is why, therefore, there's the use of force, there's the abductions, there is all those, impunity, all those negative things, because you are being challenged and you don't want to wean yourself from, the corruption and wastage, and therefore you use force, thinking that even in this time and era, you are going to subdue the people, and it will be like in the 90s, in the 80s, when Mobutu's and the Mois and so on used to do stuff like that, and that's why this violence by the state, this force, is very dangerous, as has been, as even analysts said and others said, and Chris, I think it is dangerous because when you begin, you abduct and then you say it's not the police, and then you get people responding, and then you are beginning to recruit Mungiki-like people. So now, if you let them loose so that they can do targeted abductions on your behalf, then you're courting civil war. And I think that's something that Chris, clearly said, that this is a very dangerous path, to pursue. And so that I also talk about this final question that I was asked. As what the Gen Zs did, it was very important when they said they're tribeless. That was a very, very important thing for them to say, because it is this negative ethnicity, this tribal politics that the current leadership thrives on, all of them. And so they use culture to tell people, now you must vote for people from our group, and we are going to, we are going to take power. Everything that has not happened will happen. So you will be okay. So they use culture linked to the tribe. They also buy people, again, on the basis of the tribes, those fake coalitions they make. Then they sell the hope, as I said, that when now we are sitting on those seats, we shall provide whatever. And of course, there is now the use of the system, the coercion, during elections and so on. And that's why I think if we can crack, if the progressive forces can crack this tribe thing, so that, people are told, don't vote on tribe, don't vote because you are given money, don't, be intimidated, then we will begin to make the progress that is necessary. And that's why this uprising of the Gen Zs and Gen Zote, it's important now to say, what is the vision? What is the Kenya that we want? For that to be, to be written down and to be used now for education, for the political education. And these progressive people who have been saying that they want something different, it is really time for them to now come together, like in the purpose-driven leadership summit, people to come out there and say that, this is the vision, we'll take it to the people. These are the people whom we think can do, different leadership, including getting a leadership school for the young people, so that the young people, can themselves begin to be mentored into, the proper leadership, not the leadership to go and steal. I think that will be important. And I like the fact that they were in the streets, the Gen Zs, now they're in the air, and they're very, very difficult to deal with them in the air. You can't, throw tear gas in the social media. But ultimately, they have to get to the grassroots, especially the rural areas. And this is happening because now you can see people resisting, saying, you can't arrest. We don't know whether you are police, And so if this conversation goes now to this third stage of the grassroots, that becomes to be very important. And the Gen Zs must be very careful, because there is infiltration. Some of them were told they were going to be PSS, principal secretaries. Now they are not. And now they are beginning to sulk and to say, we are being cheated. And of course, they'll be cheated and used. So the Gen Z leadership, the genuine leadership, must stay put and must grow and must not, be cheated that they are going to be given positions and stuff like that. But again, even when people make mistake, because they are young people, for them to be, looked at carefully and to see whether, people can now know that they shouldn't have done some of what they did.
So
So,
Prof, maybe
just one.
Prof,
Yes.
allow me to engage you.
Yes.
I would love for you to, as you know, as we speak on this platform tonight, I want to believe you're one of the elders that we have in this country. When you look at the current status of the country, we talk about the political aspect, the economic aspect, and the fundamental questions we are asking, even the social status of the country. Would you say that the current administration is actually in charge? And if it's in charge, how?
Prof, unmute and speak. You're probably speaking in mute.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prof, we can.
Yes.
I think for me, the problem is our president or the president believes that he has the answers. And from what I have heard, even when people try to tell him that, what about these options? Ultimately, it is his options that must prevail. And if there isn't a sea change, if that is factual and there isn't a sea change in terms of approach, so that one, when you get ministers, when you get permanent secretaries, when you get those people in the senior positions in the bureaucracy who are normally very good at doing the things that they do, those who have been doing it over the years, if they feel there is space for them to do the work, and for them to suggest what is the appropriate thing to do, then the public service begins to develop, to deliver. And again, if there is consciously the desire not to get to engage in corruption, because the moment corruption becomes the culture of the day and all that, then you can't really progress at all. So many people, I think feel intimidated, others frustrated, like what Mutiri did, what this other guy, in the delivery, very sensitive area did. So I think there has to be a Damascus moment for the president. And I don't know, how that would work out. Because, and I am saying this, with all the good intention, that initially very weak people were appointed. And now, clearly it is becoming evident that they are not able to deliver. And even with, ODM coming in and some other people also coming in, still it's not the quality of the people at those higher levels which would bring about transformation. And I think maybe the president requires a very genuine, I don't know who would make it happen, a very genuine national conversation about.
Would you say that the king is naked?
I'm saying that we have a fundamental, and this is what, even in the conversations we have had so far, we are saying that things are not working. And if they are not working, and because part of it is it's like this hand doesn't know which the other hand is doing, and people are just putting the hand in the cookie jar and all that. That's the priority. So I think that going this way, if we continue this way, then we are definitely going into a situation where when countries become not even a banana republic, but when there's just state failure, there's just clear state failure, and so if the people that are close to the president, the Sudis and so on and so forth, if those are the people who are relied to change the country during this presidency, that will not work. And I think that is honest truth. Of course, without even the IEBC, that is now disaster, because already there are constitutional things that are, the time has gone, like the boundaries and stuff. And maybe it will be important for, citizens to actually create their IEBC. Even when eventually there is the formal IEBC, to create their own IEBC to shadow that other IEBC, even as citizens try to get the best people into that IEBC, but also to have another one so that they can follow every step of the election. And if we get to the election, then we are in a situation where there is very, very clear audit of everything that is happening, and even that IBC is part of the, education, voters education, what kind of leaders we want, vetting leaders, because the law allows, the ESCC actually gives names to IEBC, telling them that these people should not be nominated, but IEBC in the past has not followed, that. So I think there is a lot of heavy lifting to be done, but what really warms me is that the country refuses to be collapsed. The citizens refuse to be collapsed. The citizens are standing, and saying, that we want a working country. We want, a decent country. We don't want to be a banana republic, and we deserve better leaders. But now it's the way in which to get those better leaders. And unfortunately, up to now, all these progressive forces dilly-dally in terms of coming to work together. And that's a very, very important step. The vision, these forces working together, the political education, and we now consummate the real liberation. And maybe the political, the economic, the social, cultural will come together and they will gel. Because as of now, we get a bit of this political one. It is not sustained. We get a bit of, apart from the constitution, that even with its weaknesses was a major win for the Kenyan people, because that's the thing that is really getting, leadership which wants to rule without the law. Now it confuses them, because people are saying that we have this constitution, we are going to hold it tight, and we are going to every time say this is what it says. And it says many things that are not done. And actually, even that clarion call of just implement the constitution, many of these other things can be included in that clarion call. I have spoken a lot, but I really, hats off, Mizani, Obed, and Eli, and all these very, very strong people. What you do in these spaces is getting to the ground. And that is why you can see Nakuru, you can see Kirinyaga, and you can see many other places. And even those Mulolongo 4 kids, as I conclude, as I land, those 4 kids, if they have done criminal stuff, let them be brought to court. Let them be brought to court, because there is a maximum of how long you hold a person before you take them to court, so that it is clear. But if not, it's therefore it would mean it's just an abduction, and they should be released. And I learned, and I really, hats off.
Thank you very much, Prof. And we do appreciate your submissions. Quite a number of issues you're raising, including not the fact that the country is having a serious conversation with itself in terms of leadership.